better for the people using the system, what is best for them, not as what is best for the system. So the answer to the question is we have to insist as judicial officers making decisions that we have all the information, that we have the school information, that we have the child protective information, that we have family history, domestic violence. And when you have the package about what that family's about, and you say, I should have known. If I had only known, I wouldn't have made that one decision, then you're doing the job you're supposed to do. But what's the excuse? Well, the clerks in juvenile court and in family court don't talk. They're different colored files. Or the green files don't go across the street. Seriously. And finally, the winner is, I'm sorry, the computers are on different programs. Now, this is 2015, and they don't talk, so we can't fix that. So too bad for that child who's going to get the short shrift out of the system. And again, it's about demanding that is a really disrespectful way to treat families in our community, and to stand up and say, we're not going to do it that way anymore. And so the National Council, Casey Foundation, other folks are being real supportive of trying to change process that may be more inconvenient for the judge, oh darn, but better outcomes for the family.
Right. Some other larger jurisdictions like LA and Chicago, what we do is we have monthly meetings with the heads of all the departments. So I have the head of the agency, I have the head of the state's attorney, head of the public defender, head of the clerk, head of the sheriff's department, all in my chambers, and we have a meeting, and the agenda is not set by me. The agenda is set by the participants. And so that is one way. So we pick up the phone and call each other as opposed to sending each other these formal letters down the street, right? And so there are many ways, but it's building collaboration. Mm-hmm. And so depending on the size, depending on your jurisdiction, you're looking at different ways. And some of the larger jurisdictions are doing these table of fives every month as well.
We have time for one more question. I'd like a question that could be addressed to our young women.
I'm with the American Psychological Association, and I'm currently conducting a dissertation on parental engagement in the dependency division of the juvenile justice system, so on the child welfare side of things. And so I'm interested because many of you have mentioned that you did touch foster care systems and the child welfare systems. What types of services, if any, do you think could have been helpful to your parents or your biological families and sort of helping in some of this prevention before you touched the delinquency side of the juvenile justice system?
I can start. I think that, first of all, there's a big push right now to fund programs through the Juvenile Justice Delinquency and Prevention Act. I think that we have to start with these early intervention programs that address the needs of the whole family, so that we can divert more young people from involvement in the juvenile justice system so that they don't become adults in the criminal justice system. I think that consistency in those programs is also the key. Young people and their families shouldn't be involved in so many systems. I think with every organization, every new case, it's re-traumatizing. They shouldn't have to explain and then re-explain the trauma and what happened with every organization. And I also think there should be organizations that track progress over time. The organization I work for, I'm a social worker by profession, but Boys Town, Louisiana has what's called an integrated continuum of care. So we track families over time. There's an arc that follows the entire family. We want to look at them now and say, hey, you're here now. Let's see where you're going to be tomorrow, and let's see where you're going to be in a few years. So I think consistency in programming and funding those programs is key.
Haley?
What I wanted to say definitely is that I can tell by the way she speaks about Boys Town, she's very passionate about it. I feel the same way about PACE, because honestly I feel like if I never would have went to PACE, I honestly right now would either be somewhere in some program, probably locked up or something, or I'd either be dead. What I wanted to say, also I wanted to hit on this question, is that until I was 14 years old, I never got asked anything about my past. I was in counseling since I was like 8 years old, and we never even talked about it. Like, she never actually asked me. Like, she sort of like she'd ask questions sort of to my mom. And I realized the one time I did try to open up to my counselor that my mother then got mad at me later in the day because my counselor had told my mom what I had said. So I stopped talking to my counselor, and so I'd go there and we'd play games and stuff like that. So until I was 14, I mean, all this stuff I had built up inside of me, I had no one to talk to. I mean, I can't talk to my mom if my mom was in all the stuff with me. My mom, she's been through a lot, and she doesn't like talking about her feelings. Like, anything that's happened in the past, we don't talk about. She doesn't want to talk about it because then it's all emotional and everything. So the number one thing I'd probably say is that programs are definitely needed, like PACE in Boys Town, and I hope we have a lot more coming. Programs are like the number one thing I feel like are needed for people that have been through stuff, because you can't talk about stuff with your family if your family went through the same thing. They can't help you if they're in the same situation as you. And so I just wanted to stress the programs. And in the foster care system, I think something that they should help with our parents is that I think my childhood would have been a lot differently if someone would have suggested parenting classes to my mom. If someone would have actually like talked to her from the beginning, then things would have been a lot different.
Deshay?
And I agree with most of what they said. I think my mom experienced a lot of the trauma that I experienced and handed down a lot of, just like she inherited a lot of the pain and a lot of the hardships. And so I think if my mom had access to a lot of the resources or maybe they didn't even have resources for her at the time, and she was forced to take classes once we were taken out of her custody, but I didn't think that it really improved her parental abilities. She didn't know how to help us. And I think now where I am in my life, we're able to have talks where she's really apologetic about how she loved us and how she couldn't. And sometimes our parents, they need more support than we do. And I think if they have programs to address the trauma and the mental issues and all the deficiencies that our parents have, that would help a lot. So programming.
And I think in the juvenile justice system, we tend to demonize parents and say, you know, this child would not be here if it weren't for the behavior of the parents. And we really have to look at families holistically. Parents are missing out a lot in the juvenile justice system because the focus is on the young person, but parents need assistance also. And I think we have to find a way to assess what their needs are and to provide the services that they need.
May I say something on that?
Sure.
My mom, she had me when she was 19, and my mom, after she had me, she brought me back to a homeless shelter actually, because our family, because I was the first biracial kid in my family, all the white side of my family did not want to claim me. They didn't want a black child. They tried to pay her off to have an abortion of me. A lot of stuff happened. So what I would definitely say is that like these programs and like the counseling and everything, and my mom's now 36 years old, and I think a lot of people think that like once you're an adult, you're supposed to have it together, and that's not true at all. And so I think that there needs to be more support for adults as well as children. And so I think that if from the beginning of my life, as soon as the trauma would have started, if there would have been someone there to support us and help us, then our lives would have been a lot different. So I just think that there needs to be more opportunities and programs out there to help people, and that they need to be more available to maybe like the South Side and like other areas of town and stuff like that.
Congresswoman Bass, I think that you want to come up here and tell us some things.
Well, first and foremost, I just wanted to come up and close us out for the day, but I just have to say, we need to give just a huge round of applause. Very seriously, to 6 amazing women. I rarely have the opportunity where I could actually like sit through something. Usually I'm, yanked away, but, I couldn't leave. There were a few things I didn't go to, but I couldn't leave in listening to you because I have to tell you that I walk away from this with tremendous amount of hope. One, I think that the young women, Sonia, Haley, Ashay, you guys were absolutely great. I know a couple of you were a little nervous. You can handle anything. You were very clear in that. And the judges, listening to you, I love the way you, number one, I know you might not like being called kids, but when you're our age, because it shows the ownership that you feel. And that was so clearly communicated by the three of you. And so I deeply appreciate that. And then fundamentally, I believe that the best policy is done when the people that are most immediately affected are involved in telling the policy makers what the policy should be, because otherwise it's done in a vacuum. And if you leave us alone in these buildings to write policy, then we're all going to be in trouble. So with that, I do want to stay in touch with you because we are in the middle of the juvenile justice reauthorization legislation, and Representative Scott, who opened us up, is leading that on the Democratic side. And this, again, is an issue where there's a lot of bipartisan support. And so I do think we have an opportunity here. And I have some very concrete things I want to follow up with you on, but I'd like to ask for your help when we're involved in that reauthorization, for you to look at the legislation and give us some recommendations. And most immediately, I thought about what you were saying, Judge Beyer, about the training of judges, and if there is a way, you know, for the judges to have a more holistic view and understanding of the young people that they're dealing with, and also including the families, knowing that the majority of the young folks will eventually make it back to their families, and we don't want folks to go back to an environment that, you know, could put them back in the system again. So I'd like to follow up with all of you. And then I want to acknowledge Chris Randall and Jasmine Valance for all of their work. So once again, thank you for setting us out with so much hope on an issue that I'm completely convinced, as I always say, our country is the richest country on the planet. And why we can't figure this out is beyond me. So it's on all of us to continue that struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine.